That was fantastic audio the last couple of days. But thank you, Eliot Wolf, for your comments today, because I think there was a lot to glean from it. And that was first off, it felt like a different tone altogether from Eliot Wolf this year, comparatively speaking to last year. It feels like a guy that's been stripped of power. It feels like a guy that isn't really sure about maybe what his future is. At least that was what I kind of heard. It was a lot, he was very succinct in his thoughts, but just the delivery made me think that maybe he's not feeling real confident in his job. But he was pressed to answer that question, and we just played him answering it right there. But it was like they asked 2 or 3 different times, and he wouldn't fully answer it until that last one. He finally did. Yes, I have final say. It's like he didn't want to, and then when he did say it, he was like, "But Mike wouldn't come here if he didn't, basically have authority over me." He didn't say it like that, but that's what he implied.
Also was interesting that he brought up, and I don't think this was an accident, he brought up in the interview process, kind of like saying, I was here interviewing him. I was already here. I was part of the interview process deciding to bring Mike Vrabel here. I may be reading too much into that.
No. This is what we're going to do today. There's a lot to read into.
But I thought he was sort of reminding people, I was already here. I've been the executive vice president of the New England Patriots for 2 years now. Mike Vrabel just got here, and I thought there was something there. Let's remind everybody, though, Stiz, of what Mike Vrabel actually said yesterday so we can compare. We have Eliot Wolf today saying, ultimately, I have final say on the roster. When Vrabel was asked yesterday, and we got excited, we thought this was Vrabel saying he had say. Let's see how we hear it a day later.
Who has final say when it comes to making personnel decisions?
Well, I wouldn't be here, and I wouldn't have wanted to be the head coach here if I wasn't comfortable in my impact on the roster. So we want to continue to have great conversations with the personnel staff, with me, with Stretch, with coaching. We're all just trying to find ways to bring the right players in here, whether that's first part of free agency, middle of free agency like we talked about, at a draft, or there's going to be players that get released that we'll have to pivot to and have options. So, again, we need to strengthen the roster. We understand that. And again, have some really good conversations about how we get there.
So he wouldn't have come here if he didn't have some input on the roster, basically, he's saying. But a day later, Eliot Wolf's like, remember last year when I told you I'd make the pick at 4? Remember everybody was asking last year, who's making the pick, who's making the pick, who's making the pick? And he said, ultimately, I make the pick. Well, this year, similar type question, roster. Yeah. Well, and that gets back to Fitzy. Remember when there were rumors, was it last January when he didn't get hired, I guess, anywhere?
Oh, they made it basically like audition for, or like he was in a trial probationary period to earn the title, not of GM, but executive vice president of player personnel.
No, I'm talking about Mike Vrabel when he was not hired by anybody last year.
Oh, Vrabel, okay.
There were these weird reports. I don't even remember who said that he was like intimidating. And people are like, what do you mean intimidating?
Oh, the previous year, because he walks in a room and I told you, he's Hagrid from Harry Potter. Ted, you can attest to it. You're a big fellow. Is Mike like when Mike Vrabel stands next to you, is it almost sort of like, wow, Vrabes is bigger than Ted?
Well, yeah, he's chunkier for sure.
Oh, wow. Shot across the bow.
chunkier. But he is a little bit larger than me. Yeah, so he does just his sheer size definitely makes you take notice.
And Eliot Wolf, I believe, is smaller than me. And
I can't wait till that's the headline on Yahoo. Ted Johnson, Mike Vrabel, chunky.
But yes, you would be correct.
So if those two, remember Mike Mayock used to always use the term like a guy in the draft process that you'd pound the table for.
Yes.
Well, if Eliot Wolf pounds the table and Mike Vrabel pounds the table.
Does the table really feel it?
Right, exactly. Who's pounding harder? And then if Mike Vrabel stands up, is Eliot Wolf also going to stand up and be like, anybody got a step stool around here or something? I want to look this man in the eye and tell him I have final say on the roster.
I think we should draft this guy from Iowa State.
I said we're getting the guy from Ohio State.
Yes, sir, Mr. Vrabel.
I think you should shut the hell up. You drafted Polk, and he was terrible. That's what I think Vrabel
guys, I think it's – tell me if you think I'm nuts. I know you probably will anyway. But isn't it as simple as this? When Eliot Wolf says he has final say, yes, he'll be the one turning in the card. He'll be the one who represents as face, front, and facade of the player personnel and GM department. But make no mistake, whatever Vrabel wants, Vrabel's likely going to get.
I'm not so sure about that. I've actually reached out to a couple people, and this was not a misinterpretation. Eliot Wolf has final say on the roster, I was told. He has final say on the roster, which means
in his contract.
Doesn't mean you have to fight. Like, we can play this game of, like, banging tables, and now they're going to be chest to chest. But it happens, right? Didn't it happen in your era? Wasn't it Terry Glenn? Like, there were fights that Bill Parcells was in, and if you want me to cook the dinner, you at least should let me shop for the groceries. So there's at least the potential Vrabel and Wolf are having that conversation, and Robert and Jonathan are in the background, right? On draft day, on free agents day, whatever, trades. It could be any. Joe Milton. Joe Milton's a popular trade rumor, right? Greg Bedard says they're toying with the idea.
It's buzzing.
Eliot Wolf says, I'm going to trade him for a 4. And Vrabel goes, the hell you are. Who's our backup quarterback going to be? And Wolf goes, I'll figure it out. And Vrabel's like, no, I want Milton. I think in the end, Wolf can trade Milton. He has that authority to trade Joe Milton. And there's nothing Vrabel can do about it except stick his chest out and try to intimidate him. Right?
Do you think it's going to come down to in year one, as bad as things got, Ted, back when Vrabel's love affair with A.J. Brown, which continues, however, they're not on the same team, was legendary. And then he got traded from under him on draft day, and that basically was the beginning of the end of his tenure in Tennessee?
Yeah. Look, here's the huge difference. I mean, one comes in with pelts on the wall. The other one, the only pelt on the wall is that he's been here longer than the other guy. I mean, just because Eliot Wolf was here before Mike Vrabel, I don't think he's thinking, I have power over Mike Vrabel. I feel clearly, I think everyone there knows who's in charge. I can't imagine, even though it might be in their contracts legally that Eliot Wolf has final say, he would never flex that authority in Mike's face on a critical call at a critical pick. No freaking way would Eliot Wolf, who you heard in that. Did you hear him in the press conference today? He didn't sound real confident when he was delivering his answers today. There is no way that guy is going to tell Mike Vrabel, no, you don't know, what you're talking about. I got this. Hey, Robert, don't listen to Mike, the most, the guy that's basically saved your franchise this offseason. Don't listen to him. Listen to me, the guy that just came up. And by the way, in his presser today, what did he do? He did exactly what Tom Curran wanted him to do, which is fall on his sword for the first 5 minutes. It was all on me, my fault. That's where after Eliot Wolf has said all that, basically blaming himself for what happened last year, there's no way he's going to flex during the draft based on his performance from last season and also based on just the overall authority and power that really I think Mike Vrabel has in that organization. Clearly more power than Eliot Wolf, regardless what the contracts say.
Okay, so that's interesting how he may approach his relationship with Vrabel. He addressed that right out the gates, and as you said, sounds like he is pointing out the power or sort of bowing down to Vrabel. But here's how Eliot Wolf talked about Mike Vrabel and their early relationship at the Combine.
It's been really cool and rewarding so far working with Coach Vrabel. He has a lot of great ideas, a vision for the team, an effort that we're all working together. He's met with the scouts, he's met with me, he's met with everybody, and just kind of, it's all authentic and genuine, and it's really good to see just how he's developed and how we're all going to develop this thing together moving forward.
So what'd you think of that, Ted? Fitting in with your little narrative and the way you think this is going to unfold, he said he's got a great vision of how this is going to develop.
Yeah. I mean, just puckered right up. just kissing up, baby.
So,
and just to juxtapose the two press conferences, did anybody hear Mike Vrabel mention Eliot Wolf's name at all in any of these conversations that he's had?
Only when asked.
The side sessions are...
I think he just called him that little fellow.
That little fella.
Dan Ball, do not fuel this.
Hey, Dan, but if you remember in his opening press conference when he was named head coach, it was Eliot Wolf this, Eliot Wolf that. Well, hey, Eliot, huh? We have little inside jokes, me and Eliot. And now I haven't heard his name mentioned at all from Mike's lips, but yet Eliot Wolf is all about the Vrabes.
So the other aspect that I think plays into this collaborative discussion, let's use that word. That word's been used for years. Mayo used it. Belichick, Groh, there was different collaborative efforts.
Ooh, speaking of that, I didn't hear Groh's name mentioned at all by either of them, and I was happy about that.
Well, I think there's a chance if there's an odd man out come May that Ted talked about, post-draft is where teams' contracts run out and they move on from people. I think Groh could be an odd man out, but you also have to remember that's probably an ally of Wolf, although I don't really know, because Wolf took over for Groh. Groh had some say in the final year of Belichick. Then Eliot Wolf takes over with Mayo, so I don't know if they're allies or not, but you did hear all these guys talking about Stretch. This Stretch guy who's Vrabel's right-hand man.
Vrabel's been leaning into naming Stretch a lot.
Absolutely, which is interesting because different people have told me different things about who Stretch is. I told you one person told me he's a blend of Bears and Ernie. Well, Bears and Ernie weren't necessarily...
Very different jobs.
Very different jobs, and like Bears wasn't necessarily advising in personnel.
Right.
But it sounds like Stretch is advising in personnel.
Correct.
Ernie did some advising in personnel, but was never really at the forefront of that. He was in the room.
He was Black Ops.
Yeah.
Spy Ops.
So
yeah, did you ever ask him what he said his job title was? Generalist. That's literally what he would say, Ted.
His job title should have been, I went to school with Bill.